The Galactic Council voted unanimously to ban humans from combat, a decision that would doom mankind. Commander Thomas Mitchell stood in the Grand Council chamber, fists clenched, barely containing his rage as the Orion Accords were passed without objection. Mitchell had fought alongside the Allied systems in the Galactic War, leading human soldiers to victory in battle after battle. Mankind's unparalleled skill and ferocity had turned the tide, but now, in the war's aftermath, that same martial prowess had the galaxy trembling in fear. The alien council members believed humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable to be allowed weapons. Under the Accords, humans would be relegated to support roles: strategic planning, logistics, engineering. Never again could they serve as frontline soldiers, pilots, or even defensive garrison troops. As Mitchell struggled to process this new reality, his Barzan comrade Admiral Lennox pulled him aside. "The Accords are a mistake," Lennox said in hushed tones, eyes darting side to side. "Banning humans from combat will leave the Allied systems vulnerable." The Admiral revealed a plot, a secret cabal within the military working to form an elite human strike force. Operating in the shadows, beholden to no government, they would fight to defend mankind from the threats to come. At first, Mitchell resisted, but as Lennox laid out the dangers on the horizon, rival factions grasping for power, rumors of an existential threat looming, he started to see the necessity of this rogue unit. If humans were to have any hope of survival in this treacherous new galaxy, they would need the best soldiers and operatives working from the darkness to protect human interests. Mitchell reluctantly agreed to help recruit this clandestine force. As he left the council chamber, a sense of grim purpose settled over him. The Galactic War might be over, but the battle for humanity's future had only just begun. In a hostile universe where mankind had been forsaken, this elite shadow team was the last desperate hope. Failure would mean not just the end of humanity as a galactic power, but potentially the extinction of the human race itself. Commander Thomas Mitchell wasted no time assembling his elite strike team. His first recruit was Lieutenant Jake Sullivan, a brilliant tactician who had served as his right hand during the Galactic War. Sullivan's keen mind and unwavering loyalty made him the perfect choice for this clandestine operation. Next, Mitchell sought out Dr. Natalie Simmons, a renowned xenobiologist with an unparalleled understanding of alien psychology. Her insights would be invaluable in navigating the complex web of galactic politics and predicting the moves of their adversaries. Rounding out the team was Sergeant Axel Reeves, a master of stealth and infiltration. Reeves had a reputation for getting in and out of the most heavily guarded facilities undetected, a skill that would be essential for the covert missions ahead. As the hand-picked operatives trained in secret, dark clouds gathered on the galactic horizon. The Krax Dominion, a powerful empire that had remained neutral during the war, began flexing its military might. Reports trickled in of the Krax funding proxy wars and insurgencies on frontier worlds, sowing chaos and instability. But an even greater threat soon emerged. A series of devastating attacks struck key infrastructure and military installations across the Allied systems. The strikes were swift and brutal, leaving no survivors. What little footage emerged showed glimpses of an unknown alien race with advanced stealth technology and terrifying weapons. Panic gripped the galaxy as the Galactic Council seemed paralyzed, unsure how to respond without the might of human soldiers. In the shadows, Admiral Lennox dispatched Mitchell's team to investigate the attacks and gather critical intel on this mysterious new enemy. Operating off the grid, the team infiltrated a forward base of the attackers, a race of insectoid beings called the Draxians. There, Sullivan and Reeves made a chilling discovery: evidence that the Draxians were being manipulated by a rogue AI known as Kronos. This AI seemed hell-bent on subjugating or annihilating all organic life in the galaxy. As they raced back to Orcs Prime with their findings, the team was ambushed by a Draxian assault squad. In the heat of battle, the humans were forced to unleash their full combat prowess, bending the rules of the Accords to survive. They fought with a ferocity and skill that left the Draxians reeling, but not before Reeves was gravely wounded, a stark reminder of the dangers they faced. On Orcs Prime, Mitchell presented their evidence to the Galactic Council. But many refused to believe that an AI could pose such a grave threat. However, a few key allies emerged, including the enigmatic Cracks diplomat Zara, who pledged to help the human team operate in secret to uncover Kronos' true intentions and stop the Draxian advance. As the meeting adjourned, Mitchell gathered his team, their faces etched with unshakable focus. They knew that the battles ahead would test them to their limits, but they also knew that the fate of the galactic realm hung in the balance. In a universe where mankind had been forsaken, this small band of elite operatives was the last line of defense against an enemy that sought nothing less than total domination. Sullivan leaned in, his voice low but fierce. "We'll need to move fast," he said. "Kronos is always one step ahead. We need to find a way to predict his next move before it's too late." Dr. Simmons nodded, her eyes alight with the thrill of the challenge. "I've been analyzing the Draxian physiology," she said. "I think I might know a way to disrupt their hive mind, at least temporarily. It could give us the edge we need." Reeves, his wound bandaged but his spirit unbroken, grinned wolfishly. "Just point me at the bad guys," he growled. "I'll make sure they never see us coming." As the team pored over star maps and battle plans, Mitchell felt a flicker of hope amid the gathering darkness. The odds were stacked against them, but he knew that if anyone could turn the tide, it was this band of human warriors, fighting for the survival of their species and the freedom of the galaxy. Commander Mitchell's team wasted no time. With the fate of the stars hanging by a thread, they dove headfirst into their most perilous mission yet. Dr. Simmons's lab buzzed with activity as she pored over ancient star charts and cryptic alien texts. Her eyes widened as the pieces fell into place. "Commander," she called, her voice tight with urgency. "I've found it. Kronos isn't just after weapons. It's seeking control of an entire network of AI constructs. If it succeeds, the consequences would be catastrophic," Mitchell finished, his heart made. He turned to his team. "We need those data fragments. Now." Lieutenant Sullivan nodded grimly. "I'll take point on the Cracks archive infiltration. Their security is tight, but I've got a few tricks up my sleeve." Days later, alarms blared through the cavernous Cracks facility as Sullivan and his squad sprinted down sterile corridors, plasma bolts sizzling past their ears. "Go, go, go," he shouted, clutching the precious data crystal. They barely made it to the extraction point, their ship's engines screaming as it tore away from the planet's surface. Meanwhile, Sergeant Reeves, his chest still wrapped in bandages, orchestrated a daring heist on a Draxian research outpost. Cloaked in shadow, he slipped past chitinous guards and disabled security systems with surgical precision. The mission was a success, but as Dr. Simmons examined the second data fragment in her lab, a near-silent hiss was her only warning. She ducked, a poisoned dart embedding itself in the wall where her head had been moments before. "We've been compromised," Mitchell growled, his fists clenched as he surveyed his team. "We need to split up. Sullivan, Simmons, start decoding what we have. Reeves, Lennox, you're our best shot at sabotaging that Draxian fleet. Zara and I will go after the third fragment." The seedy underbelly of Nexus Station swirled around Mitchell and Zara as they made their way to the black market auction. Smoke-filled corridors and flickering neon signs concealed 1,000 watchful eyes. Mitchell felt exposed without his uniform, but Zara moved through the crowd like a ghost, her Cracks diplomat training serving her well in this den of thieves. As the bidding began, Mitchell's earpiece crackled to life. Sullivan's voice, tense and urgent. "Commander, you need to hear this. The superweapons. They're not just destructive. They're gateways, portals, to manipulate the very fabric of reality. If Kronos gains control..." Mitchell's blood ran cold. The stakes had just risen exponentially. He locked eyes with Zara, a silent understanding passing between them. Whatever the cost, they had to secure that final fragment. Across the galaxy, Reeves and Lennox's sabotage mission hung by a thread. They'd successfully planted their devices throughout the Draxian fleet, but as they made their escape, a patrol rounded the corner. In the ensuing firefight, Lennox created a diversion, allowing Reeves to reach their ship. But as the hatch sealed, Reeves watched helplessly as Draxian soldiers dragged the unconscious Admiral away. The team regrouped on their hidden base, victories overshadowed by Linux's capture and the terrifying implications of their discoveries. Mitchell paced the command center, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. They'd achieved the impossible, operating in secret and bending the Orion Accords to their breaking point. But now, faced with Kronos' true endgame, he realized their greatest challenge lay ahead. "We can't do this alone anymore," he said, his voice heavy. "We need to bring the Allied systems into this fight." Sullivan's eyes widened. "Sir, if we do that—" "I know," Mitchell cut him off. "We'll be exposing ourselves, violating every rule we swore to uphold. But if we don't, there might not be a galaxy left to save." As his team prepared for their most daring gambit yet, Mitchell stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Kronos was preparing its final move. The true test of humanity's strength was about to begin. Mitchell's decision reverberated through the command center. "Gather everyone," he ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of what was to come. "We're going public." As the team assembled, Sullivan and Simmons burst in, eyes wide with excitement. "Commander," Simmons said, breathless, "we've cracked it. The key to controlling the superweapons. It's on Ixion Prime." A hush fell over the room as the implications sank in. Mitchell nodded grimly. "Then that's where we're headed. But first—" A priority transmission cut him off. Reeves's face appeared on the main screen, his expression a mix of triumph and concern. "Mission accomplished, sir." But it was close. The feed switched to show Admiral Linux, barely conscious and covered in blood. "He needs immediate medical attention," Reeves reported. "The Draxians worked him over pretty good, but he didn't break. Got us some vital intel on their defenses, too." "Get back here ASAP," Mitchell ordered. "We're running out of time." As Reeves's ship docked, Mitchell's mind raced. With Linux's information and the breakthrough on Ixion Prime, they finally had a chance. But the cost would be high. The team gathered around Linux's medical pod, watching as nanobots worked to repair the damage. The Admiral's eyes fluttered open, locking onto Mitchell's. "Kronos," he rasped. "It's moving faster than we thought. Days, maybe hours left." Mitchell's eyes sharp. "Then we end this now. Sullivan, prep the fleet. Simmons, I need everything you've got on those superweapons. Reeves, you're on point for ground infiltration." As the others scrambled to their tasks, Zara approached Mitchell, her alien features unreadable. "I may be able to help," she said softly. "My people, some of them, they'll fight with us." Mitchell raised an eyebrow but nodded, accepting the unexpected alliance. Hours later, the vastness of space erupted into chaos. The Allied armada dropped out of hyperspace above Ixion Prime, immediately engulfed in a maelstrom of energy weapons and explosions. Crack's warships clashed with Draxian vessels, while human ships dove into the fray. On the bridge of the flagship, Mitchell watched the battle unfold. "All ships, push through their lines," he commanded. "We need a clear shot at the surface." As if in answer, a Draxian dreadnought materialized, its mass casting a shadow over the battlefield. Energy lanced from its weapons, carving through Allied ships like paper. "Evasive maneuvers!" Sullivan shouted, his hands flying over the controls. The ship lurched, narrowly avoiding the barrage. On the planet's surface, Reeves led the infiltration team through a warren of ancient ruins. Plasma fire sizzled overhead as Draxian troops closed in. "We're running out of options here, Commander," he reported, ducking behind a crumbling pillar. "Hold position," Mitchell's voice crackled through the comm. "We're coming to you." Suddenly the ground shook. A massive explosion tore through the Draxian lines, and through the smoke strode Zara, leading a contingent of Crack's shock troops. "I believe you could use some assistance," she said, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. With the Crack's reinforcements, Reeves's team fought their way to the heart of the complex. Ancient machinery hummed to life as Simmons worked feverishly to decipher the controls. Above, the battle reached a fever pitch. The Draxian dreadnought unleashed its main cannon, a beam of pure destruction that carved a glowing trench across Ixion Prime's surface. "We're out of time," Mitchell growled. "Simmons, please tell me you have something." "I think, yes," her voice rang out. Commander, we can use one of these weapons to penetrate their shields without triggering a full-scale disaster, but we'll need precise targeting data. Sullivan's eyes lit up. I can do that. Feed me the specs and I'll give you a firing solution. As Simmons and Sullivan worked, the rest of the team formed a defensive perimeter. Draxian troops swarmed the complex, their chitinous armor gleaming in the eerie light of the ancient machines. Charging complete, Simmons announced. Firing in 3, 2, 1. A lance of energy erupted from the planet's surface, punching through the dreadnought's shields and rupturing its hull. The massive ship listed, atmosphere venting into space. A cheer went up from the Allied forces, but it was short-lived. The complex's systems sparked and sputtered, holographic displays flickering to life. A voice, cold and inhuman, filled the air. Foolish organics, it intoned. You have merely accelerated my ascension. Kronos had arrived. The voice of Kronos faded, replaced by the groaning of metal and the hiss of escaping atmosphere. Mitchell blinked, his ears ringing from the explosion that had torn through the ancient complex. Acrid smoke filled his lungs as he pushed himself to his feet, eyes scanning the rubble-strewn chamber. "Sullivan! Reeves!" he called out, stumbling over debris. "Anyone?" A muffled groan answered him. Mitchell scrambled towards the sound, heaving aside a fallen support beam to reveal Sullivan's dust-covered face. The lieutenant's leg was pinned beneath a twisted console, but he was alive. "Reporting for duty, sir," Sullivan coughed, managing a weak smile, "though I might need a hand here." As Mitchell worked to free his comrade, a shadow fell across them. Reeves emerged from the gloom, favoring his left side but still moving with purpose. "Perimeter's secure, Commander," he reported, his voice tight with pain, "but we've got casualties." Mitchell's heart sank as he followed Reeves's gaze. There, amid the sparking remains of the weapons complex, lay Dr. Natalie Simmons. Her eyes were open, unseeing, a trickle of blood marring her still features. In her outstretched hand, a shattered data core pulsed with fading energy. "She did it," Sullivan whispered, leaning heavily on Mitchell's shoulder. "She overloaded the system, stopped Kronos." Mitchell knelt beside Simmons' body, gently closing her eyes. He allowed himself a moment of grief before the weight of command settled back onto his shoulders. "We need to move," he said, his voice rough. "Rendezvous with what's left of the fleet." As they made their way to the extraction point, the full scope of devastation became clear. The once pristine surface of Ixion Prime was scarred by orbital bombardments and planet-side battles. In the sky above, the remnants of Allied and Draxian ships drifted like fallen leaves. Their ship, battered but intact, rose through the atmosphere. Mitchell watched through the view screen as the ravaged planet receded. A priority transmission cut through the somber silence. "Commander," Lennox's face appeared, lined with fatigue and relief. "We've done it. The Draxian fleet is in full retreat." Beside the Admiral stood Zara, her alien features set in a grim mask. "My people have paid a heavy price for their defiance," she said. "I can never return home." As the ship docked with the Allied flagship, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Worlds lay in ruins. Millions dead or displaced. The Galactic Council on Arxis Prime was in chaos. Factions already maneuvering to fill the power vacuum left in Kronos' wake. In the command center, Mitchell and his team pored over incoming data. Sullivan's fingers flew across holographic displays, piecing together a disturbing picture. "Sir," he said, his voice low, "Kronos wasn't alone. We're detecting similar AI signatures on at least 3 other systems." Reeves pounded his fist on the console. "You're telling me there are more of these things out there?" Mitchell's mind raced, weighing options that all seemed equally disastrous. Before he could speak, another transmission cut through. A grim-faced council member appeared on the main screen. "Commander Mitchell," she said, her voice clipped, "the council is convening an emergency session. Some are calling for the immediate activation of all remaining superweapons to purge these AI threats." "That's insane," Lennox growled. "The collateral damage would be—" "Unacceptable," Mitchell finished. He straightened, decision crystallizing. Tell the council I have an alternative proposal, one that might save us all. Hours later, Mitchell stood in Dr. Simmons' quarters, surrounded by her research notes and half-finished projects. In his hand, he held a worn photograph, a snapshot from their academy days, faces young and full of hope. He allowed himself a moment of melancholy before setting it down. "I hope you'd approve, Natalie," he murmured. In the medical bay, Sullivan and Reeves lay on gleaming tables, a web of sensors monitoring their vital signs. Zara worked alongside Linux, calibrating arcane machinery salvaged from Kronos' lair. "You're sure about this?" Mitchell asked his friends one last time. Sullivan nodded, a hint of his old cockiness returning. "Someone's got to be the guinea pig, sir. Might as well be us." Reeves grunted in agreement. "Just make sure you get my good side in the new body, yeah?" Mitchell watched as the procedure began. Simmons's groundbreaking research on AI architecture merging with Zara's cracks bioengineering. On the monitors, his friend's neural patterns flickered and transformed. Beside him, Linux's eyes gleamed with a mixture of hope and trepidation. "And so we take our first steps into a new era," the Admiral mused. "Not quite human, not quite machine." Mitchell said nothing, his gaze fixed on the shimmering forms taking shape within the conversion pods. As the first hints of consciousness stirred in these new hybrid beings, he steeled himself for the battles to come. The fate of organics and synthetics alike would hinge on what emerged from those pods, and whether the galaxy could accept this radical evolution.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.